Amazing. So we are here with John from ePremiere Bitcoin. I'm super excited to have you here today talking with us. And we are here with a very specific purpose, which is that we're going to talk about the Bitcoin Educators Unconference, which is coming up on April 10th in Nashville at Bitcoin Park. So I would love to have you first introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, and then introduce us to this organization because I know that I've seen Me Premier Bitcoin before, and I know that you're doing work all over the world, but I'm not super familiar with what you're up to or what your goals or your vision is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. Big fan of Bitcoin Park. I'm actually a member. Uh, Great what you guys are doing there. Really love to see these community spaces around the world pop up. To bring this digital revolution into the real world. So my name is John. I'm from New York originally. I am currently in El Salvador. I've been living in El Salvador since August 2021, um, which is also when Mi Primer Bitcoin or my first Bitcoin was founded. So if you guys remember, El Salvador in 2021 adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, and that seemed like fertile ground for Bitcoin education then. So what my first Bitcoin is, we are a Bitcoin education nonprofit. Um, we we believe that introductory, independent Bitcoin education could change the world, right? And how could it change the world? It empowers people to take control of their own life, have agency in their own life. If you control your money, then you control your power. If you control your power, you control your present. If you control your present, then you could better plan into the future. And if you could better plan into the future, that actually changes everything, right? That changes how you interact with your neighbors. It changes so many things. So we're really focused on bringing people into the Bitcoin space and not in a way that talks about how they can make more dollars, right? We specifically never talk about making more dollars and trading. Um, we talk about Bitcoin as a revolutionary tool to take control in your own life, right? Which, if you understand that, you never want dollars again. This is a one-way street. You're not today is Bitcoin, but tomorrow I could have more dollars. No, it's a one
It's just
way.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's just Bitcoin. Once you come to Bitcoin, once you learn about Bitcoin, then you never want dollars again, right? People that are trading back and forth, that are seeking more dollars, I think they just haven't really grasped the potential of Bitcoin yet. So we started in 2021 here in El Salvador. We have taught more than 40,000 in-person students here
Wow.
in country since then. We have developed a number of materials. Everything that we do is open source, but kind of our flagship product is this, which is the Bitcoin Diploma. It's a 10-week program. It's financial education for the Bitcoin era. So everything that we do, again, is focused at bringing new people in. So it's roughly divided the first half, in this case, 5 weeks, but we have other versions that are longer, shorter. But the first half is about financial literacy. What is money? Why is money? How did we arrive at the present moment? And then the second half is Bitcoin, right? Now that we have this basic understanding of how the finances of the world work, now we could think about how we could do better with them, which is what Bitcoin is. Once you understand the problem,
Hmm.
then you can understand the solution. So that's been a very successful format for us. And again, everything is focused on empowerment. So uh, don't take we don't take any government funding. We don't take any corporate funding. All of our funding comes from, we do get some grants from organizations such as like OpenSats, HRF, but actually the biggest slice of the pie where we get most of our money is from the community, right? And we
Hmm.
represent the community. Uh, I, I'll get into this tangent about the importance of funding later. Try to stay on topic here with my first Bitcoin. So what we've created a whole open source library about Bitcoin education. Um, and now, in 2025, we have expanded significantly beyond the borders of El Salvador. So we are
Great.
now an international organization. We started 2 years ago this month, in March 2023. We founded the Independent Bitcoin Educators Node Network.
Hmm.
And what that is independent educators from around the world, groups, projects, organizations that agree to a core set of values they could apply to join the network. And the six values, the six core values are that the Bitcoin education must be independent, impartial, community-led, Bitcoin only, quality, and focus on empowerment.
Hmm.
So if you agree with those six core principles, and we all use the same resources like the Bitcoin Diploma that we've developed, um, then the network at this point is self-governing. It's decentralized and self-governing, so the network itself will decide if you meet those requirements, if you have sufficient proof of work, if you could join the network. And at this point, we have a presence, we have projects that we work with in 39 countries around the world.
Wow.
And many of those countries actually have multiple projects within that country.
Hmm.
Like in the United States, that's one of the 39 countries. I believe there are maybe 7 or 8 projects that we work with just in the United States,
Yeah.
um, that go in that one number of 39. So we have been really, you know, we're always trying new things to bring about this future that we all desire, right? Like we're always trying to live our principles, which is why the network is decentralized, which is why everything we do is decentralized. Everything we do is open source, why we never work with governments, corporations. And then the another kind of branch from this main trunk is the Bitcoin Educators Unconference. We had
Wonderful.
that first one in 2023 as well, and the concept of the unconference is, what if Bitcoin could be a conference, right? What would that look like?
Hmm.
So maybe a better way to explain it for Bitcoiners is not to call it an unconference, but to call it a decentralized conference. So the agenda is made by those who show up, right? Like everyone who comes to the conference actually has a say in how it's organized and what the output of the conference is. So at the
Yeah, could
start,
we? I'd love
yeah,
to hit on this a little bit deeper because most of the time when you go to a conference, you have a certain expectation. And the expectation is they know who's going to be on stage. There's been some prep, there's been some
yeah,
conversation. Maybe there's some VIPs and there's some non-VIPs, or some speakers and some non-speakers. And there's a really tight run of show for the day, where at 8:30 coffee starts, and then at 9 o'clock so and so is going to get on stage. But what we're saying here is that there's an unconference. Can you break down for those of us who might not know what an unconference is and what characteristically is so different about it? Because it sounds to me like you're talking about with our nodes, we're going to get the people in the room, kind of the experts that are doing this thing, but then you're going to do something funny with them in this unconference format. Could you break that down for us?
yes, yes, absolutely. So the concept is it's a 1 day event, but it's kind of an all day event. And at the start of the day, everyone gets together in the same place. And probably an important context is the size of it, right? So the our max is 150 people. We've never had an unconference with more than 150 people. If we hit that number, then we stop selling tickets. Then we turn people away, because the format breaks down with that larger number, because it's meant to be like a mini community for the day. It works with smaller numbers too. There's not really a minimum. There is a maximum though. So it's a smaller, more intimate type setting. And at the start of the day, then everybody is in the same space in the main area. There will be multiple spaces throughout the day, but everybody starts at the same point, and we'll talk about the concept, like what is an unconference, similar to this, but probably even more in depth at that point. What is an unconference? What are we hoping to do today? And then we open it up. So we ask people to, if they have something to share, something to contribute, if they could come up on stage and if they could share just very briefly, 45 seconds, what is your name?
Hmm.
Where are you from? And what can you help others with regarding Bitcoin
Very
education?
cool.
So, for example, it could be, my name is John, and I work with my first Bitcoin, and I want to talk about the importance of, or let me give a better example. My name, make this one up. My name is X, and I work with Circular Economy Y, and
Hmm.
I want to talk about the importance of Bitcoin education within circular economies. So then we write that down on this big whiteboard, right? And we're like, thank you for that. We write that down. More people come up. Many people come up. A lot of people are pretty active. But what will happen is there will be people with similar topics, similar areas of expertise. My name is X, and I work with this other circular economy, and I want to talk about education. It's always about Bitcoin education. That's
Hmm.
the common theme. So then it's like, oh, cool. So we have two people, and then maybe there's a third or a fourth that come from different circular economies. So we're going to put all four of them together and assign a time and space for them, right? So
Hmm.
once we have this whiteboard, which is just filled with all these different topics that people could lead discussions on, give presentations on, first we see if there's some commonality. It's like, okay, we could combine these two, or we could kind of put these three together. And then we try to gauge interest, right? So if there's a lot of people are bringing up a similar topic, there's a lot of interest in that topic. So maybe
Hmm.
we'll break that into multiple sessions. If and we'll try to gauge interest with we'll ask for a show of hands or people to make noise, or we'll try to gauge interest, and with that and with overlapping um, presentations, we'll make the schedule collectively, and there will be multiple spaces. So there'll be two or three spaces. Uh, the idea being that each of these is relatively small. One of the spaces will reserve probably the main space for more of like a presentation type thing, more of what you're used to at a conference.
Yeah.
Somebody with a microphone on a stage, um, mostly one way. Maybe there's Q&A afterwards or whatever, but more typical. But
Sure.
the other spaces are meant to be conversations that have a theme and are led by experts in that theme. In this
Hmm.
case, education and circular economies. It could be how to educate seniors. It could be how to educate your children. It could be like best practices for dealing with governments, with education, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, and that's meant to be more like a conversation, more of a discussion that has a lead, that has somebody who's an expert in that area. And then the rest of the people, maybe they have knowledge too, maybe they just are seeking knowledge, but it's they're in charge of that space at that time. So we make the schedule collectively at
Yeah.
the start of the day together, and then as the day progresses, then people kind of like find which space they want to go to. And what often happens, because we start this way, because we're asking people to come up and take the initiative and introduce themselves. Even if you don't have a space, then that's almost like an audio name tag. Like,
Hmm.
oh, that person said something really interesting. I want to talk to them about that. But like, oh, they're doing their thing at the same time that I want to go to this other thing. Like people end up having these one-on-one or these smaller conversations outside of the agenda that we create collectively.
Yeah.
There's these third and fourth spaces that develop, and more so as the day goes on, because when we start the day with like, you're in charge of this conference, like this is up to you. Nobody is telling you what to do. This, you own this, right? We all own this. That we have found that really changes how people view the rest of the day.
Wow.
It makes them really
Y-
active and
Yeah.
seek out
You can't just sit
conversation.
in the stage or sit in the audience.
And another important thing is it's explicitly non-commercial.
Hmm.
So there is no sponsor, and it is prohibited from trying to sell something
Sure,
there, right?
sure.
You can't, it's not a space to fundraise, it's not a space to sell products. And it's not a space that has sponsors where like we are agnostic, we're neutral. Uh, but it's not a space, and this is something that we explain in the intro, and it I think it embeds itself throughout the day. It's not a space where anything is for sale. It's a space where everything is given away.
That's right.
Um,
What I
and that,
love about what you're articulating is that you have done such an interesting work in establishing this core principle that's very much aligned with ideas that we often just understand in the technology space. When you say something like open source, you say, well, okay, well, Bitcoin's open source. But you don't often ask yourself, well, how do I make a conference open source? Or you talk about nodes of information and self-organizing to generate your own outputs. You might think of that in the context of, oh, well, Bitcoin is an opt-in ecosystem. And then I go to a conference and people tell me what I'm going to listen to. Well, why shouldn't a conference have an opt-in ecosystem where everybody can contribute in that same kind of way? It's very cool to hear
yeah,
that you are trying to organize your work along the same principles as Bitcoin. And there's one additional thing that you mentioned early, which is you talk about this idea of introducing Bitcoin to folks in a way that doesn't try to get them on the hype train. And it's interesting because this is something that I think we talk about the number go up meme, right? We always say, "Oh, well, number go up gets people in." And you say, "Well, okay, it might get people in, but it's sort of like saying, do you want to offer, free candy to get somebody to come into your school? Well, if I give them free candy, maybe they're just showing up for the candy. Maybe they don't actually want the education. They don't. They come for the number go up, but they don't stay for what you're articulating, which is really this very long experience of Bitcoin. It's not here just for number go up. It's here to live for hundreds of years. And if you're going to do something like that, build an online opt-in ecosystem that lives for hundreds of years, you should probably just teach people about the basics. They don't need kind of the cheap entries. So I wonder, with that in mind, what do you see that happens at these unconferences that surprises you or blows your mind? Is there anything that you just consistently see when you throw an unconference that at the beginning it starts like this, but then by the end something magical is happening that you can just kind of say, oh, this is the emergent thing? I'm wondering because as people register and get excited for this upcoming conference, I'd love for them to have in mind the kind of transformation or learning that they themselves are going to go through.
yeah, yeah. So what one of the core um, hopes or assumptions when we held the first one was to demonstrate this concept to see if we could prove this concept in real life. And that concept is we are more than the sum of our parts, right? If we could bring people together who are all doing really great things in their own communities, if we could bring them together, is one plus one plus one three, or do we come up with a greater number than that?
Mm,
And it has been very clear that by the end of the day, we are more than the sum of our parts. Many people end up, uh, well, first, it is incredible to see because it's not really headliners, right? Like we have had people either announced or drop by that would be considered headliners, people like Preston Pish, people like Jeff Booth. Um, but what makes this special is you get to meet the people who you've never heard before, right? They're not there because they have a lot of Twitter followers or whatever. They're there because um, they're actually doing the work on the ground and they're
hmm
interested in accelerating that work. They're interested in learning more about that. And what often ends up happening, and this is, totally self-organized, right? This is just individuals doing this, that people create new projects, they create new alliances, new initiatives from the conference itself. So, for example, at the first one, which was November 2023, there was I don't know what the theme of that session was, but it was something like uh, it was like a woman focused session, right? Like how to bring more um, women into the Bitcoin education space, something like that.
Hmm.
And from that group, that session ended and like people got together. That was at the start of the day. People got together, they kept trading ideas, and they actually self-organized in one of these extra spaces, right? In like a third space or a fourth space. Like, let's get together and let's actually make plans to have another discussion, another meeting. And they actually decided to have a women in Bitcoin education retreat in Mexico
Wow.
then a couple of months later. And that has actually snowballed into an entirely distinct group. They have retreats, they have their own events, they have this, but that all came spontaneously out of the first unconference. And there's a number of every time there's examples like this where new initiatives and projects start because it's an environment that is super inspiring, right? It's
Hmm.
an environment where you see that not only are you not alone, not only are you not alone, but you don't exist in a silo. This is a global movement, right? That's what you feel. You feel, and I don't think you really feel it as much at the more traditional conference format.
Sure.
In this format, it feels like a social movement. It feels like a revolution, right? And that imbues this spirit that, okay, so like let's double down, let's work harder. Like you're doing this, I'm doing that. Let's work together. Let's do this. And we've seen the collaboration of people that meet at these unconferences with this spirit of cooperation, this spirit that we are all in this together. It's not a competitive thing, like this is a collaborative effort. Um, it's every single time it is something that happens by the end of it is uh, it feels more like a community and the concept that we can be more than the sum of our parts is realized, right? It's
Hmm.
it's no longer a theory. It's like, wow, we really are more than the sum of our parts. We really can do more collectively than we could do individually.
What I love about this is that we're so used to, you're breaking the dynamic of kind of the speaker and the audience, and you're insisting that, hey, if you're going to show up to this thing and we want you here at this unconference, you are almost required to participate. You have, just because you're
Yeah.
here, valuable experiences, valuable background, and you can share it. You too are going to be taking part in what you're describing as this kind of Bitcoin revolution. It's really interesting that it's so different from what we're used to, where in a conference you might have to get sponsors, you
Yeah.
might have to give that sponsor 10 speaker spots, or set up a big pavilion right at the entryway and let them park a cyber truck with a cool wrap on it or something like this. You're really, really very concerned with the ground level, kind of creating that spark of inspiration and innovation. I I wonder, it's we're really excited to first off have you guys in Nashville hosting the Unconference, and I'm very excited myself to be able to get to experience it, because I had known about Unconferences, had done kind of very minor introductory, kind of the exercises you go through at the beginning of introducing, getting things up on the wall, making the sticky notes, moving the sticky notes by each other if they have the same topics. But I've never done one in the Bitcoin space, so I'm really, really pumped for this. So based on what you're describing, do you think I should set a goal on the way in, or do you think I should just ready myself to have my mind blown, or do you think I should say I need to meet 10 people, or am I just showing up and having a good attitude? Like what do I need to do to be ready to be here when it comes time for the conference?
Um, I don't think that you need to, unless you want to propose a more formal type conversation or presentation. Um, just come as you are, be who you are. So one of the another core concept that is super important in everything that we do, and we apply it to the unconference, is it's not about teaching people what to think, which is what you're talking about with a traditional conference with sponsors, and they get a certain number of speaking slots, and you're going to see their brand in, and that is encouraging people what to think, right? It's not about teaching people what to think. It's about teaching people how to think for themselves,
Mm,
right? So it's empowerment is not just a phrase, it's something that we have to live. So I think the best thing you could do when you come to the unconference is is to come with an open mind, to come with an optimistic outlook, right? Because we're trying to build a better future, right? So you have to be an optimist.
hmm
Uh, you have to be open. You have to be uh, willing to learn, ready to learn more than you are to teach, right? Like it's not, yes, you should be imparting your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise onto others, but you're gonna get more than you give. Everybody's gonna get more than they give. Like everybody is putting out there what they could contribute. Um, so it could be actually if you want to think about like, oh, I'd love to learn more about X and its particular topic,
hmm
maybe just pay attention at the start of the day for people that bring things up that are similar to what you want to learn about. But I would say just an open mind. It's a the unconference is an organism in the sense that it's its own thing. It has its own life, and it's going to go wherever we collectively guide it to. There's not like these predestinations, like it's going to end up here. It ends up wherever we all
Where it
decide it
goes.
ends up.
John, I love this so much, and I can't tell you how excited we are to have you at Bitcoin Park in Nashville, just under 2 short weeks
Yeah.
to help facilitate this wonderful experience. If we could maybe have you take us out on this final question. You mentioned something really interesting, which was that you moved from the U.S. to El Salvador a number of years ago. And I would love to, because obviously folks are going to come in and they're going to get to meet you in person. I'd love for you to give us a sense of what you've seen just in El Salvador, helping to facilitate. You mentioned, the training of 40,000 plus individuals,
Yeah.
and how has going through this process changed you?
Mm. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. This is a fascinating time in human history, right? This is a time I'm very optimistic that we could create a better future for the next generation. Um, but I'm also aware that we have to do it. We can't rely on anyone else. And um, here in El Salvador, like the learning curve has been quite steep with me Premier Bitcoin, right?
Hmm.
We kind of just arrived as an idea and then we built everything out. We've done a lot of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. The unconference is a great example of that. Uh, it was somewhat inspired by the Node network. We have these monthly GAs, and it's like, oh, these are so inspiring, where we share best practices, talk about how we could help each other. Um, what if we did this in person? So, but we didn't know if it would work, and it was actually wildly successful. So now we've taken it on tour. We go international with it. This is now we're going to Bitcoin Park, which we're super excited about. So I think something that I've learned through this journey with me from Bitcoin the last few years here in El Salvador and around the world is don't be afraid to fail, right? Once you are afraid to fail, you already have. So you need to be willing, if you want to change the future, you need to be willing to fail in the present. You need to be willing to be uncomfortable in the present. You need to be willing to challenge yourself in the present.
Hmm.
Because if you don't do those things, if you're not willing to go out on a limb, then you're just going to remain subservient to either um, the status quo. If those that are trying to create change aren't successful, you're like it's actually not up to you. Like what happens in the future, it's up to someone else. Uh, so I think a lesson that's really been reinforced for me here is if you want if you want to see change, not only do you have to do it yourself, but you have to be willing to try new things, to experiment, to persevere through adversity, and you have to be willing to fail.
Well said, John. Now, where can we find you, and importantly, how can we sign up and get tickets for the unconference?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so you could follow the project on social media, Twitter, Instagram, my first Bitcoin underscore. My Twitter is j_dennehy_writes. And for unconference tickets, and also to just see videos of past unconferences, photos, learn a little bit more about it, then that's all at bitcoinunconference.com. Or is that .io? No, it's bitcoinunconference.com. Uh, and yeah, we really hope to see you guys in Nashville. We're excited. I know the day before there's an event at Bitcoin Park to bring meetup organizers together, and it's just a great week. Like just come to Nashville, spend a few days there, go to the unconference, go to the grassroots week, and check out the park. Like I think there's even a BitDevs meetup that week. There's always
That's
tons
right.
of stuff happening at the park, and if you're looking if you're looking for an excuse to go to Bitcoin Park, then you have one. And if you're in the area already and you're interested in teaching about Bitcoin, and we all should be, right? Like I want to extend this invite. Like you don't have to be part of this formal organization or have a project or work for a company, right? We are all Bitcoin educators. All of us can teach our neighbors. All of us can teach our coworkers, our families, our children, right? So all of us could benefit from this. All of us have something to share. Uh, so don't come see it for yourself. Come to Nashville in April, and I am confident that you will leave more optimistic about the world.
Well said, John. Well, we should wrap it there. As always, this has been Rob Warren with Bitcoin Park. If you want to keep in touch with us, you can find us on Twitter at Bitcoin Park underscore. We didn't get the non underscore, so we gotta probably sort that out in the long term, or just keep in touch with us. We do a daily email, www.bitcoinpark.com/email, if you want to keep in touch with us there. And then we'll be out, obviously, at the upcoming event. We're super excited to be hosting it, and we cannot wait to see the Me Premier Bitcoin crew and this Educators Unconference take shape in just a few short days. Cool. Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.